So is it murder or not murder, Joseph?
No, self-defense, sir.
I believe so too. Although the videos that everyone claims about the shooting exist, I don't think are really good videos of the shooting that I've been able to find.
Every time. Every time. Every time. Every time. Everybody back up.
What you got it out tonight?
They don't let us march in the streets anymore, so got to practice some of our rights.
You feel like you'll need to use it?
Nah, I think I mean, if I use it against the cops, I'm dead. And I think all the people that hate us and, want to say to us are too big of to stop and actually do anything about it. So
I put that out because I thought the community needed to know, and maybe in hindsight, it wasn't the best thing to do. But I stand by what I did. He was down there peacefully protesting for several days with the firearm. And he said he would not point it at cops because he knew he'd get shot. So when you tell the citizens of Austin that I'm going to march wherever I want to, and you can't do anything because you're a bunch of, to me, that's relevant.
There's something about exculpatory evidence not having been provided to the grand jury before the indictment was handed down. Of course, we all know that they don't have to give the grand jury
exculpatory
evidence or any evidence. They can just go in and say, we think he's he committed the crime, and the grand jury can indict a ham sandwich, right?
Yeah, that's the saying.
What would be nice is if the state legislature cured that by allowing defendants to have a second bite at the apple with the grand jury before they have to go in front of a jury for trial. Because, it normally takes a year or two before you take a criminal case to a jury trial anyway. All right, so there's plenty of time to get as much evidence as you can about the case out. And as you know, trial is a do or die situation. If you get convicted, you go to prison for, well, in this case, you can go to prison for life. But if it turns out that there's exculpatory evidence that the prosecutor refuses to act on or refuses to dismiss the charges, if that evidence demonstrates that the defendant is unlikely to be convicted, you should be able to get a second review by the defendant should be able to demand a grand jury review new evidence before going to trial in front of a jury, in front of a trial jury.
That would take legislation, though.
Yeah, unfortunately, that would take Republicans in
stepping up. Forget that.
Yeah,
squish bastards.
Yeah, and actually introducing a viable remedy to a growing problem of prosecutors not disclosing all evidence to grand juries, which seems to happen more often than we care to admit. I mean, we certainly saw that with all the January 6th defendants in Washington, D.C.
Certainly.
And what people need to know is a lot of U.S. attorneys come out of district attorneys' offices. It's like nobody's born a U.S. attorney.
Yeah.
Okay, you go to law school, you become a lawyer, blah, blah, blah. You start working at a DA's office, and then ultimately you apply for a position with the U.S. Attorney's Office, and then you go to work for the Department of Justice, so on and so forth. There you are in D.C. prosecuting Republicans.
Yeah, prosecuting.
Yeah.
Prosecuting.
Yeah, for Republican,
people.
For political crimes. But
yeah.
Be that as it may, something needs to be enacted by the legislature to allow people to demand a grand jury review new evidence that comes up in a case if it exonerates the actions of a defendant before that defendant has to go to a final trial.
Well, I'm thinking how much that would benefit guys like Sergeant Perry, who was he was a active duty infantry soldier
at Fort
Hood.
Yeah.
He was doing Uber, trying to make extra money simply because the Army doesn't pay enough or give enough benefits anymore. Okay,
I've actually read stories about enlisted soldiers being on food stamps.
Oh, that's common, and they have to pay for their medical and pay for their insurance. I mean, they don't get enough separate rest. They don't get enough food money. These are soldiers.
And
their families are just, it's
driving
really
Uber.
bad.
Yeah.
Driving Uber. Okay, this guy is driving Uber, defends himself against a rowdy mob, and a year later is indicted. Okay, why wasn't it 6 weeks later? Why wasn't it 6 months later? No, it was a whole year later.
Was it an election later?
No, this what's his name? Garza, I think, the DA there, who is, I mean, he's fraught with controversy.
Well, he probably couldn't get an indictment the first time it went to the grand jury.
Well, he ran him through until they wore one out. Fine, true bill him.
But my point is this: if the prosecutor can go back to a grand jury to get an indictment, if they fail to get an indictment the first 2 or 3 times they go before the grand jury, then I think once exculpatory evidence comes into the possession of the defendant that exonerates the defendant's actions, that the defendant should be able to go back in front of the grand jury and say, hold on, I shouldn't have been indicted for this. So before I have to go to a final trial, I should be unindicted, or I should be no billed.
Okay, well, here's what vexes me. Okay, why is it that the DA didn't dismiss the charges when exculpatory evidence comes out?
Well, so let's discuss that. The exculpatory evidence, from what I understand, is inconsistent statements that were made by witnesses to the event that had otherwise changed over time. In other words, the statement they gave immediately after the shooting was different from the statement they gave much later after the shooting. So their story kind of changed over time. That makes it inconsistent, right?
Yeah.
Now, without knowing the substance of the statements, I don't know whether that's because their memories faded or they remembered new things, right? You never know which way it's going when it comes to a witness's memory.
I wasn't talking about this particular case. I'm talking about in general.
Oh.
Why is it that DAs are not required to dismiss a case when exculpatory evidence? Because, I mean,
What's called prosecutorial discretion.
I understand what it's called, but that's wrong. That you have some discretion, and what we've talked about it before. Prosecutors have to have prosecutorial discretion, just like a police officer has some kind of discretion. But when you're faced with exculpatory evidence that proves that the guy is not guilty, okay, I just don't see how you can ignore that.
Well, unfortunately, in Texas, the struggle is between who has more power, the prosecutor or the grand jury. And the people with the ultimate power is the trial jury, right? But we've seen time and again where they get things wrong and they send innocent people to prison because innocent people have been released from prison. Mm-hmm. So we know they get it wrong. So I'm just trying to create a safety valve that runs as a check against out of control prosecutors. And so what I think needs to happen is the state legislature needs to reassert the power of the grand jury and allow defendants who are wrongfully accused to go back in front of a grand jury before they have to go to a final trial and get their case reviewed in light of new evidence. So the grand jury can say, okay, this indictment shouldn't have gone down, and the prosecutor has to live by that decision. And if on a review of the evidence, new evidence before trial, a grand jury no bills you, it should be with prejudice. Mm-hmm. So that the prosecutor can't bring it again. So it would be almost like you get 2 trials.
Yeah, two grand juries,
which
right.
I'm all for, because I'm sick and tired of seeing innocent people go to prison.
Me too.
I'm absolutely tired of it.
Especially when it's one-sided prosecution, one-sided justice system.
Yes.
I mean, this guy was a soldier, an active duty soldier, defending himself as an Uber driver. I mean, do you think he went hunting?
Well,
the people know. He had a pistol. The guy had a rifle. Yeah. What is he supposed to do? Is he supposed to let him shoot him? I guess that's what the DA thought.
But one of the things that people have to understand is the risk you take when you carry an AK-47 across your chest, because the guy carrying it was himself a veteran, an Air Force veteran. What was his name? Garrett?
Yeah, something.
Garrett Foster?
Yeah.
He should have known that the risk you run in creating apprehension in innocent third parties when you're carrying an AK-47, that if you inadvertently point that weapon at someone, they may believe and have reason to believe that they're about to become the victim of serious bodily injury or death.
I mean, and you get what you pay. You get what you reap what you sow. And don't give me this Air Force veteran bullshit.
And so
he wasn't. He's not a way. He's not.
Okay.
He's not anymore. It's just like McCain was a war hero. John McCain, the senator.
Yes.
And so you had to be nice to him because he's a war hero. Then he became a senator. So it's open season on everything he does and says.
Well, then
Mr. Khan, who got up on the stage at Hillary Clinton, he was a Gold Star, him and his wife, Gold Star mother, father, Gold Star parents. He's not anymore. Now he's a shield for the Democratic Party because he got up on the stage and said, Donald Trump's a bad guy. He can have my copy of the Constitution. Once you do some stuff like that, you are no longer what you were before. Okay, that guy was an Air Force veteran. Now he's a BLM. Okay, he was a BLM protester.
Right.
Okay, which is predicated based on false information, on lies. What was one of the things they were shouting? Facts don't matter. Black lives matter.
Right.
Yeah. So, but people like anyway. I'm sorry. I don't mean to.
No,
I'm not. It just ridiculous. This soldier is now on trial for his life. You know, he has the right to carry. So does that other guy. Okay, but you don't have the right to point it.
But you. So I'm not suggesting that I don't think people should have the right to carry a rifle if they feel the need to carry a rifle. But you also assume a certain risk when you do it.
Pointing pointing at people.
And you know, as many rifles as I have ever owned in my life, I have never carried one across my chest downtown in a parade. And I don't think I ever will. I mean, just because you have the right to do something doesn't mean it's logical to do it. Right?
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, you can drive the speed limit. If the speed limit is 65 or 75, you can drive the speed limit. But if it's in the middle of a hurricane, probably not a good idea.
Well,
so you have to.
Driving is not assured in the Constitution.
Well, I understand that, but you still have to be aware of your surroundings, and you have to be aware of what the conduct in which you're engaged.
Yeah, you know, and the DA should have taken that into account, the conduct in which he was engaged, which is violent protesting. And anybody who protests with a rifle, and I don't mean showing up to a rally to Second Amendment support, and everybody's got a rifle and doing it peacefully. I'm talking about when somebody dares to honk at you and you surround his car because he dared to honk.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's violence. And then he ran up to assist the crowd with his AK-47. Okay,
right.
That all should have been taken into account.
Yeah, well, we as a society, we become a little bit too acclimating to people's irrational conduct. We accommodate people's irrationality way too much. It's not rational to surround someone's car and start pounding on their vehicle because they honked on you. It's just not a rational thing to do.
Exactly.
Especially,
I'm just saying they should have taken that into account.
Especially if you're carrying an AK-47.
And on the flip side of that coin, is it rational to get an extra job, drive Uber, and then all of a sudden be around, surrounded by people who are banging on your car, see a guy pointing an AK at you and shoot him? Is that rational? I think so. I think that's quite rational. That's what anybody would do. And to me, it's like, what was Michael Brown doing 30 seconds before he was shot by Wilson, the officer? What was Wilson doing 30 seconds before he shot Michael Brown? Okay, Michael Brown was robbing a store.
Right.
Okay, 30 seconds before that, Officer Wilson was going out of his beat to take another call above and beyond.
Right.
So his actions tell you everything, what he was on his way to do. What this guy was on his way to do was deliver an Uber person, or Uber customer.
Why he's charged with murder? I mean,
murder and assault with an aggravated weapon, I think.
Aggravated assault with a deadly weapon?
Yeah, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Yeah.
Okay, that's just silliness.
It is. This DA is a Soros-backed dipshit.
I hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
But
I wasn't yelling at you.
It's okay. We're running the video while we're talking here. So please, watch the video for yourself. We obviously will include sound with it so you can see here when the gunshots start ringing out. I think there's 7 gunshots fired. There's 4 and then 3. And I from what I understand, and you've mentioned it, that the 3 gunshots that come at the back end are someone else.
Yeah, there's somebody shooting at him.
Because I think Daniel Perry immediately tried to flee the scene.
Well, he actually, and that's another thing. He didn't just flee the scene. He left the scene, got to a safe spot, and called the police. Is this the actions of a murderer? Is this actions of somebody who committed murder or even thought he committed murder? He thought he was defending himself. You know, so there's another action that the 2 people did, disparate actions. One is driving an Uber car and then getting into a shooting and then calling the police on yourself.
Okay, so before we go.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I think now would be the time to mention it would be a good idea if you are carrying a weapon and you happen to find yourself in a shooting, the first call you should make is to your lawyer.
Yes.
To a lawyer to come to meet you at the scene.
Yeah, there we go.
And talk to you about what you're going to do before you talk to the police. That's what people need to have drilled in their head. So if you're going to carry a firearm in Texas, you know, you should, the NRA provides a service to provide an attorney in the event that you're involved in a shooting while you're carrying a concealed firearm. Have that service. I used to have concealed carry legal services where we did the same thing. And now the NRA provides that service. So they've kind of subsumed the market, but that would be a good idea. Know your area, know where you live, know where you're going to carry your weapon. You have to, plan ahead, because when it comes down to it, if you actually have to use that weapon, which is the whole point of carrying it, and the whole point of having a concealed handgun license, you should at least know what you're going to do after you've pulled the trigger. And really, the first thing you need to do is call an attorney to come down and meet you and talk to you about what you're going to tell the police. Now, obviously, you have to call 911. You have to get an
See, I don't like that. I don't agree.
Why?
Because if you were walking in the park by yourself and you shot a guy who was trying to kill you and you ran away and didn't call 911, and then they found him and it turns out he bled to death 45 minutes later, you might have a problem. But do you think that there was a shortage of people calling 911 for that guy? No, there wasn't. And so what do they say?
But the only people who have a duty to render aid are police officers.
Yeah. Well, and also what is the Miranda warning for? What is the first thing they say?
You have the right to remain silent.
The second thing, anything you say, and that includes the 911 call, can and will be used or subterfuge to against you.
So your opinion is don't call 911 at all,
unless you're totally cut off from everybody and there's no witnesses. Why would you? You hand it to your friend, okay,
Fair
and
enough.
say call 911. And if you have to call 911, my opinion is to say send an ambulance and a police car to this location. And then hang it up.
That's true. Okay. I'm with
you know what I mean? Because you go, I had to shoot the guy. There's this idiot that does. He was a retired police officer who likes to give legal advice on his YouTube channel.
I'm with you on that.
Well, I mean, he puts a fake phone to his ear and walks back and forth. If I was, here's what I would say. I'm like, you're gonna hold their hand right to the fucking electric chair, aren't you?
Yeah. No, you're right. Okay. Do you have to call 911? No, you do not have to call 911.
You shut up. Shut up.
Yes. Okay. I'm with you. Shut the F up Friday.
Yes. The Tom Nixon Law Firm, today's specialist. Shut the hell up Friday.
But definitely call an attorney. Have somebody out there who's helping you walk through the process, who's speaking for you and will defend. Because that's what police officers do. Every police officer shooting, they call their union. Or they call their, like the Texas Municipal Police Officers Association.
And shutting up goes for police officers too.
Yeah.
On your body camera.
Yes.
Shut up.
Yes.
Shut up. Don't say anything.
When you pull the trigger, shut your mouth.
Yes. Exactly. And I know you're excited and it's the adrenaline's pumping, but how many, the one woman talked herself right into prison.
Yes, she did.
Right into it. I'm going to prison. And she did. And that's where she went.
During that traffic stop in April, Potter, a 26-year veteran of the force, says she mistook her handgun for a taser after Wright struggled to get away from another officer trying to arrest him for a misdemeanor warrant.
I grabbed the wrong gun!
can see her collapse to the ground moments after the shooting. Potter now facing first and second degree manslaughter charges.
So that brief snippet, she pulls the trigger and she starts running her mouth.
Yeah.
Shut up. You
Yes.
pull the trigger, shut up. That's going to be our motto from now on. Pull the trigger and shut up. All right.
Okay.
Call your lawyer.
And this sergeant
don't
didn't do
ever-
anything wrong.
Yeah, don't ever be ashamed of calling an attorney, and don't ever let anybody think that you should feel ashamed, because if you're innocent, you'll just give a statement. That's the biggest lie on planet Earth.
Okay, look, we were police. I was an investigator. I'm going to tell you something right now. If we're asking you, we don't know. We have no clue. Zero clue. Okay. So, and if it was police officers, everybody goes, oh, what are you telling them that for, Joe? Well, because it's fair.
Yes.
Okay. And I have seen too many people now railroaded and convicted or sent before a grand jury simply because one police officer was telling me, I just know, I have a feeling he did it. Jesus, Mary and Joseph. You know, well, do you have any proof? Well, I got a feeling. Well, yeah, I got a feeling too.
And I swear to you, on all that is good and righteous in the world, call your lawyer
Yes.
first. All right. Anything else, Joseph?
No, I think I've screamed enough for one
All right.
one episode. Sorry, folks.
We'll see you in the next video.